Okay, look, in case you didn't know, the order of God is this. As children, okay, when you have more than one sibling, even if you're the only child, if you have sisters, brothers, however many, it doesn't matter. It's never your responsibility to father them. It's not your responsibility as a sister to mother your sisters or your brother. God did not say that. That does not come from God. If you are an adult now and you have siblings and you was forced to take on the role of your mom or your dad, I'm here to tell you that's wrong and that's not what love is. Your parents can get mad at me. Your auntie and them can get mad at me. I don't care. I'm about what God says. And God never told us as siblings, as brothers and sisters growing up in the same household, to take on and be forced to do what our parents' role is. As a brother or a sister, a family member, we're supposed to learn, our parents are supposed to seek God on how to raise us up to enjoy our lives as children, as a teenager. We can only be a sister to our brother. Our brothers can only be a brother to us. And if you have a brother and you are male, you can only be a brother to your brother. You cannot mother him. You cannot father him. And I apologize. So many of you, including myself, was forced to be a role and put on a function that was not your role or purpose or function, and you missed out on being a little girl, a little boy, a teenager, experiencing the godly, pure, fun childhood and stages of being a little girl, a little boy, a teenager, the way God intended. It's so sad that so many of us, our parents, grandparents, whoever raised us, they put on us the burden of their role, their function, their purposes. They made us watch our siblings. They made us mother or father them. They made us feel guilty, condemned us. And I'm here to tell you that's satanic. They're in error. They're wrong. And if they're still breathing God's spirit, they need to go back to God, repent, come to you, repent, ask for your forgiveness, even in your adulthood, and face what they did that was not God's order. God's order is for a child to be only a child. The parents or whoever raised you is supposed to help you with your identity in and through God, with their choosing, with the will that God gave them in his will. Never is it okay for a parent to take their role, their responsibility, their function, and put it on their child to be that. That's not what God says. That's not from God. That's not God. We as children are supposed to experience God's purpose and function and role for us as children. We're supposed to know what being a teenager is like. We're supposed to experience that according to God and his word and his will. We're not supposed to be mothering or fathering our siblings. That's not our role or purpose. And that's why so many of us end up being so ahead of our time or having to take on a life that we weren't supposed to, that's out of God's will. We still mentally disordered in our adulthood and don't know how to function and do self-care and love ourselves because we was forced by our mom, forced by our dad, forced by our great-grandparents or grandparents to take on their role, their function. And God didn't never say that. That's not for us to do. And that's not what love is. Any parent or grandparent, whoever raised you who does that, does not love you, and they hate themselves and what they went through. And until they go to God and face the truth of it all, then they can be an actual grandparent to you, a godly one they need to choose to be. Then that mom or that dad can actually begin to become, in and through God, a godly mother, a godly father. So what I would suggest to you, if you are this vessel like I was, where I was forced to be something as a little girl into my teenager life that my parents were supposed to do, my mom, my dad, it wasn't him. It was my mom in my situation. If I were you, I would do like I chose to do. Go back to God. Go to God ASAP, like it's a 911 emergency, because it is, because some of you have children now. Face what was put on you throughout your childhood that shouldn't have never been put on you. According to God, you should have been enjoying your childhood the way a child is supposed to, a teenager is supposed to. Your mom and them, your dad, when they sinned and did what they did, they supposed to face some consequences, not get you to partake in it with them. It was not your responsibility, never your accountability according to God. They are supposed to face what they chose to do, not involve you and make you lose out on your innocence, cost you to experience the good and the godly and joyful parts of your teenager years and your life as a little girl and a little boy. Because now some of you have a problem with loving on you and being there for yourself and stop overextending yourself to others and being so motherly or fatherly because that's what was forced on you demonically by your parenting foundation or whoever raised you, for a lot of you. So I encourage you to go to God and face that. If you're someone like that, how I used to be, go to God, let him restore you, and go to those areas of your childhood, and you'll begin to notice how God will send people to you where that teenager, you can experience those teenage years again like you were supposed to. The little girl can get free in you. The little boy can be free. And you can actually be a woman or come into manhood, come into your womanhood now. So that's our parents' faults, or whoever raised us, that's their fault for causing us to miss out on things that was never God's will. It was never God's intention. It was never supposed to be our accountability or responsibility. When our parents chose to have sex and we came in the process, the blessing came in the midst of whatever they did, however they came together to have sex and did what they did with who they did it with, they had to face what they did. We wasn't supposed to be forced to face the consequences with them of what they did. We as children, as siblings, brothers and sisters, we're only supposed to be a brother and sister to each other, not mother and father each other and do our parents' responsibility as children. No, they have to face what they did. Okay, that's not our responsibility. That's not our accountability according to God. Anything outside of what God created in order concerning the genders, concerning family members, concerning children of their parents is satanic, is demonic. They don't love you. And if they say they love you, they lying, because love is an action. Love does not force a child, no matter what the parents say. It does not force their children to take on their consequences, their responsibility, their accountability according to God. You help that child and let that child be a child. Let your child be a little boy, a little girl, only a brother to his sister, only a brother to his brother. That little girl should not have to mother her sister. She's not supposed to have to mother her other siblings. No, she's not a mother. She's a sister. She's a little girl. She's a teenager. Let her learn and see God about how to help her understand what teenager is all about. The godly way. Let that little boy, your son, learn how to be a son so he can come into manhood and be a brother to his brother. That's all he can be. That's his measure. That's his lane. So many of you parents, you shifting your kids into a lane that they cannot fit, that God did not anoint and qualify them for. They're only qualified to function as a role as a brother to their brother, a brother to their sister, a sister to their sister, a sister to their brother. They're not supposed to be mothering their cousins and their nieces and nephews. That's a sin. That's demonic. That's wicked. That's evil. That's not love. Love doesn't force itself. It just is. And one thing I've learned from God, stay in your lane and know your role and purpose and function. You don't force it on nobody else. And you don't take on someone else's role, because it can crush you. It can crush your role, your identity, your function, your purpose, and who you are, and your self-esteem and your confidence too. So that's my prayer for those of you who've been through that or still going through that. I encourage you to go back to God. But it's never siblings' role to take on their parents' role. And it's not love for parents to enforce their accountability and consequences and responsibility on their children to do it or partake of it for them or with them. That's not love. That's not God. That's a disorder. It's demonic. It's satanic, and it's wrong, and it's evil and wicked. It goes against everything love is. It goes against God's order, his structure and function and purposes for siblings, for brothers and sisters and family members. God is a God of order. And anytime parents are doing things that's against what God created, they are out of order and a disorder and a dishonor to their children. If you don't believe me, see God for yourself. Go to Google it. Scriptures about parents, scriptures about children, and you will see, ask God to open your eyes and your ears to see how he created family to function in their identity. We're not supposed to go past that. We're not supposed to jump in other people's lanes. We need to stay in our own lanes. And it should not be enforced. Love just is. Any questions or comments, feel free. I welcome it all in love, respectfully. I love you all. I'm Gabrielle. Till next time.